Got to mute us. All right, welcome to the Chiefs Cheat Sheet with Mr. Steve Walls, and I'm Darren Smith. We are here live from Union Station here in Kansas City as we get you set for tonight's pregame, tonight's game, Sunday night game, as the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Denver Broncos in a heated AFC West rivalry game. Of course, that game will be on NBC later on tonight. Kickoff is at 7:20. Steve, your thoughts on tonight's game?
Man, I'm excited, man. It's color rush game. Chiefs are gonna go to
I
all red
saw
on red.
I saw that.
Hmm
I don't know. I'm not sure they're gonna look as good as we do, but
Yeah.
you never know. Um, Obviously, Kansas City comes into tonight's game with a 10-1 record.
Mhm.
Broncos 4-7. Broncos last week played without any quarterbacks. They resided on their rookie wide receiver on the practice squad that they called up. They lost 31-3 to the New Orleans Saints. Chiefs coming off of a 27-24 win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To me, wasn't as impressive as the first quarter, but they came away with the win. Your thoughts on how these teams look coming into tonight's ball game?
Well, of course, Denver. They've struggled over the past since the beginning of the season, really. Drew Lock hasn't really been able to come into his own this season, which I thought he would.
That's your guy.
Yeah, he is. And the Chiefs have had two emotional games these past two games with the Raiders and also with Tampa Bay. And so this is a divisional game, though, and it's one of those games where, and I know we'll get to the defense later, but the defense can use as a motivation tool to go into the rest of the season. But when you look at Denver coming into Kansas City, it, no matter how bad they've played, no matter what Drew has done with the turnovers and only throwing, I believe, 7 touchdowns so far this season, they're going to come in here balling. He's from Kansas City. These guys it's still a young team at the end of the day, and I think they're going to come in here ready to play because we all know that the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs, they have gotten everyone's best each and every week. And so I think they're going to get Denver's best. So it's not going to be the game that people think, Chiefs are going to go in here and just steamroll the Denver Broncos.
Last time these two teams played back in October 25th in Denver, the Chiefs pretty much scored in every facet of the ball game. They beat them 43-16. Patrick only had really probably his most pedestrian game as an NFL quarterback. Only passed for 200 yards, had one touchdown on the year. I think he had one on the ground as well. But then of course the Chiefs scored on the ground. What's his name? Clyde Edwards-Helaire scored. Dan Sorensen had a pick six. Byron Pringle had a 103-yard kickoff return as well. So Kansas City scored from all facets of the ball game in Denver. Look, I know you talked about the defense using this game as kind of a stepping stone, so to speak, or at least trying to get things back on track. Is that something that you see happening in tonight's game, and do you see it happen early on?
Well, the defense, look, Steve Spagnuolo said earlier this week that, people are putting too much on, just the sacks. And he doesn't look at sacks being just the end all be all, so to speak, of, to saying whether this defense is playing well. And I agree with him. I'm more to the fact that, as long as they're getting wins, no matter if they're ugly wins, a W is a W, and sometimes there's still a lot of football left this season, and it could come to the point where a turnover from the defense will have to carry the offense. I mean, it's just how the game folds. And if you look at it last year, the defense struggled, right?
Well, the defense struggled early on.
They did
before Patrick got hurt.
They did, but they turned it on at the end of the game, at the end of the season, going into the playoffs. Which you want your defense to hit their stride going into week 15, week 16, where all right, now we rolling, we good. Frank Clark's talking mess to everybody, So right now, I really don't foresee this defense really becoming an issue until they are an issue.
Well, that's where I respectfully disagree. I know you and I, we've had these conversations off air, in the fact that I understand where Steve Spagnuolo's coming from, where he's talking about it's not all about sacks. But you do have to get to the quarterback. You do have to get pressure and get to the quarterback. That's something that they did not do against Derek Carr 2 weeks ago in Vegas. And then you saw what the Atlanta Falcons were able to do last week against them when they came to Atlanta. I mean, they were. I think they got to Derek Carr at least 3 times, forced him into turnovers. Chiefs weren't able to do that 2 weeks ago when they were in Vegas. Last week against Tom Brady, look, the team offensively, they jumped out to a 17-0 lead. But the defense allowed Tom Brady, and yes, it is Tom Brady, but the defense allowed him to get back into the ball game. I know you say that a win is a win is a win, but you also don't want the defense to give teams an opportunity to come back. Because the difference between this year's team and last year's defense is that if Kansas City is down 24-0 in the playoffs, this defense isn't the defense that can bring them back.
And I agree. However, when you look at how well they played last week against Tom Brady, they shut him out in the first half. Not as far as points go, but Tom Brady had three and outs in a row. I mean, when you look at Tom Brady, that's kind of an unheard of type of thing where he's going three and outs. Not even they didn't look good in the first quarter, and the defense played exceptionally well. Credit to them for that. But when you look at it, it's still Tom Brady. He's still going to get better as the game goes. And of course, they gave up some touchdowns, but they ended up stepping up at the end of the game, which got them to win.
Kansas City leads the all-time series by 12, 66-54. They've actually won the last 10 games against the Denver Broncos. So, of course, if you're a betting person like myself, maybe like Steve, you're obviously expecting Kansas City to win tonight. The question is, for me, maybe for you, but for me is that what they haven't done the last 2 weeks, they haven't been able to cover the spread. Last week, I think they were 3.5-point favorites. Again, I'm not someone who's ringing the alarm or anything like that. But what I've seen from the Chiefs offense, and to an extent, Andy Reid, is that you get up a certain amount of points and you start letting your foot off the gas pedal. The thing that I disagree with, and I kind of brought it up with Eric Bieniemy this week when we talked to him on the Zoom, is that you don't know if you're going to face Tampa Bay or to an extent maybe New Orleans. I know that's who you have facing Kansas City in the Super Bowl. When you have an opportunity to face these teams, and look, I'm old school, I think that you need to try to run up the score if you have the opportunity to. And last week against Tampa Bay, they had that opportunity. I think they left a lot of points on the board. And again, the game shouldn't have been as close as it ended up being, 27-24. But for me, when you're facing these teams and you know that your offense is clicking, Patrick throwing for 356 yards in the first half.
Yeah,
the first half. To me, there's no excuse for him to only throw 104 yards in the second half of the ball game. When, I mean, to me, you should be sending the message that we might face you, Tom Brady, in February. We might face you, Drew Brees, in February. But we're going to put so much doubt in your mind because we're going to put so many points on you that you're going to have doubt that if we happen to face each other again in February, then you're going to feel like there's nothing that we can do with this team.
Well, look, if you're looking at it from, and I see where you're coming from, but if you're looking at it from just facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week and then the Oakland Raiders, let's start with last week. Last week, Tyreek Hill had a monster first quarter, right? 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, two touchdowns in the first quarter. But when you look at those numbers, I mean, the Chiefs came out on fire, and you look at what Tampa Bay tried to do on defense. They came into that game blitzing over 40% of the time, and they were going to do that come hell or high water against Kansas City and leave their defensive backs on an island out there, which is crazy. I don't know why you want to do that, but they did.
I think the cornerback was in the doghouse.
Yeah, and they did that, and they were going to go with it until it didn't work. And by the time they looked up, they were down 3 scores. And so at that point, it's like, all right, we're going into halftime. We're going to try to fix it. And Tampa Bay they still have one of the top 10 defenses in the league. And so once they figured out what the Chiefs wanted to do, they started double teaming Tyreek Hill. They started double teaming Travis Kelce. What more do you want the Chiefs offense to do? I mean, they came out and did what they were supposed to do.
You know what I want them to do?
What do you want them to do? The running game wasn't happening.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I want. When Tampa Bay defense or when their team is in there making adjustments, the Chiefs need to be making adjustments to their adjustments. That's what I expect them to do.
Well, the thing about it is they didn't have a balanced game last week at all. I mean, you when you look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the first game of the season, he had 135 yards. He had one other game that he had over 100 yards. Every other game, he's at only 50 yards a game on average, and so he hasn't played all that well these past few weeks. And so that leads you to think that, okay, well, if they don't have a balanced offense, what are they going to do? They're going to attack you with what their strength is, which is what got them to the Super Bowl last year, which is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce going with their money. And you can't complain when Patrick is throwing for 300-400 yards a game. You can't complain about that. And I feel like Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are okay with giving Patrick Mahomes 50 passes a game. I feel like they're okay with that.
I mean, no, I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
What I'm not fine with is opening drive. You're trying to be too cute instead of just getting the touchdown
Here
on
you
the
go
one.
with that. No.
Yes. But I will say this because you talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I believe it was Jay Glitz who reported that today that now I remember Friday, Andy said that Clyde was a little under the weather,
Stomach hurt.
stomach ache. So it's expected that Le'Veon Bell should be getting the bulk of the action or the calls in today's game. Aside what we were just talking about, what are your thoughts on Le'Veon and what kind of production do you see him putting forth in tonight's game?
If Le'Veon, see what's going on with Le'Veon is he's used to starting. He's not used to coming off of a bench after everyone's already warm, and he's playing from behind at that point, and he's trying to catch up to what everybody else is doing in their momentum that they already have. And so I feel like if he gets to start tonight, he'll be fine. You'll see the Le'Veon that you saw in Pittsburgh.
I agree.
And once he's out there and he knows he's not going to be coming off the bench, because when you're sitting on the bench, it's like, man, when am I going to get my time? You want to win, put Booby in. That sort of thing. Let me spin, coach. And so, if Le'Veon's able to start, I think he's going to do a lot better than what Clyde is able to do. And no disrespect to Clyde at all, but
Le'Veon's an all-pro for a reason.
Exactly. But the thing about it too is that they got to give him the ball. I mean, I know you were like, okay, well, pound the ball in there. You're on the goal line. Don't do anything fancy. Just pound it in there. But they understood where you got to remember they haven't been too hot in the red zone.
Again, with Clyde running the ball, they haven't been hot. Look, we saw last game, and I know we talked about the offensive line, but all of Le'Veon's rushes, even with that back, were positive yardage. My thing is, look, Clyde is like 5'2", 202 pounds,
right,
soaking wet. Le'Veon's 6'1", 6'2", 210, 215. He can get you because he's done it. Like you say, he's a starter. He's basically an every down back. He can get you that first down with a 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, even behind that offensive line. And if you get down to the goal line, 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1 on the goal yard line, I feel that he can get it versus Clyde. Look, we've seen on film throughout the first 10, 11 games that Clyde cannot, push the line or cannot find that crease to get that first down yard.
Here's the thing:
when it's short
you
yardage.
mentioned the offensive line. They've been playing pretty mediocre. Without Mitchell Schwartz in there, they haven't had any push whatsoever.
But Le'Veon, to his credit, has still been getting positive yardages.
Yeah, and granted all credit due to Le'Veon, and that's what he's good at. Whether if there's no hole in the line, he's going to be patient and take his time to where a hole develops. Which Clyde isn't used to that.
Which is why my question to Bieniemy is, why not have him in there on those short down yardages versus Clyde? And I know he said that the former running back, he expects anybody who he puts in there, but I'm saying, but what they've seen on film and on tape, Clyde hasn't been the one to do it. So I'm saying give this guy who you brought in off the streets, who's a 2-time, 3-time All-Pro, give him a chance to get the first down, to keep the drive, to keep it going. Look, I'm not saying you don't take him back out and put Clapper, but I'm saying to keep the drive going, I believe that Le'Veon needs to be that back that's in the game.
But you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place at that point,
not really.
because if the offense is rolling and you've consistently used Travis Kelce on 3rd down to get a first down, you've consistently used Tyreek Hill to have big plays, you've consistently used all these other receivers, and Patrick is comfortable with throwing the ball at that point, and your offense is rolling, you got to keep going with what works. If it hasn't worked,
but you're
earlier
not utilizing
in the season,
2nd, 1, 3rd. That's all I'm saying.
they've been moving the ball though. They've been moving on 2nd and 1. They pick up 10 yards. And you mean they haven't been moving the ball, Darren? You know that you can't complain about that just because they haven't run the ball or when they needed just 1 yard. That was the thing about when I asked Eric Bieniemy earlier this week about not being where teams are able to understand and figure out what they're doing, not being complacent and letting these guys have fun with it. I understand the NFL is a serious business, but these are still young guys. You want to break up the monotony at some point. Let them call a play, because
you call a play when you go 20-28-0.
No. But when it works, these guys, you have Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid. They're called offensive geniuses. Now, when it doesn't work, it's like, oh man, y'all doing too much. You can't do that. No, you got to let it come let them come as they do, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to work, and we've seen them work. We've seen the 3rd and 15 or the fourth and 15. We've
Well, I'm
seen
not
it work.
asking to run the ball up the middle on 3rd and 15.
But I'm just saying the different. We've seen the what was it called where they in the Super Bowl last year with Andy.
23 jet chip wasp.
Exactly.
Like
We've seen that work. So you can't sit up here and tell me just because it doesn't work that one time where Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes got into the head of Travis Kelce and was like, hey, make sure you throw me the ball. And he was going to throw it to him. And no matter where the defensive guy was, you can't sit up here and be upset with that, man. Let these guys go out there and have fun, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And Eric Bieniemy said it best, with COVID-19 going on. I mean, we don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow, man. So you got to make sure that you live for today and do what you can do to where these guys can go out there and have fun. There's no complaints, man.
all right, so you trying to dictate this on a whole philosophical, spiritual level. I don't know. You talking about ain't gonna be no tomorrow. Hold on now. I'm going to Tampa. I'm going to Tampa in February. I don't know about all this.
I'm just trying to prove my point. That's all.
You ain't proving. But I said, look, getting back to everything though. Let's look at the Denver Broncos. We'll come back to Kansas City. We got them for the rest of the hour. When you look at Drew Lock, again, last week, they weren't able to play. They got fined for not wearing the mask or being within. They were high risk. I know before the season you felt that Drew is a franchise quarterback for them. Now, I've spoken to members of the media in Denver. I've spoken to former Denver Bronco players. The talk around Denver is that he's not that guy. What does he need to prove in not only tonight's game but the rest of the season to where the Denver Broncos are not looking for a replacement for him in the offseason?
Look, you got to remember that this Denver Broncos offense they're not the best. I mean, and it goes when you're drafted, if you're drafted into a good system, the worst quarterback can look amazing, and so the system right now just isn't working, and I think Drew at the end of the day, and he's gone on record and said, hey, and we're just talking about the Chiefs, but he's gone on record and said, hey, against the Chiefs, I'm going to be the bad guy. It's my hometown. I'm gonna come out and try to play it as best as I can. I'm gonna be that bad guy. And I think, coming into Kansas City tonight, you're not gonna see the Drew Lock that throws all those interceptions is what he's been doing. He's gonna come out here and try to play well. I'm sure he has his mom and dad and sister going to the game, family, friends from Lee Summit. They're gonna all be at the game, and he's going to come out here and play well, and this could make or break their season. Well, not make or break their season because their season's already broken, but it can make or break as far as like a mental thing for him. If he comes out here and goes into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes, I think that can be everything for the rest of the season for him. And that's why Denver opted to go with Drew, because you look at a young guy, and Drew can get the ball down the field. Don't get me wrong, he's not the guy that Chiefs fans were like, oh, Alex Smith he's just going to be a game manager. Nope. Drew is the guy that's going to go out there and make sure that he's flinging the ball and not be scared, which is another reason why he's had so many interceptions of what he had this season.
Well, the last time these two teams played at Arrowhead, Drew Lock didn't have a good game. The Chiefs beat them 23-3. So he can sling it all he wants. If he's not getting anybody in the end zone, it's not going to matter. Again, Drew Lock is 149 of 268 this season, 1,700 plus yards, 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His counterpart, Patrick Mahomes, leads the league in passing with almost 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. I think that's good for third in the league. Only 2 interceptions, which leads the league. Your thoughts on the quarterback play of Mahomes? I mean, I know we probably use every superlative there is, but can he become any better than what we've already seen?
I don't think so. I mean, and really, how can you? You go out there and you've done everything. I mean, you've won a Super Bowl, you've won a regular season MVP, you've won a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he's done things in his short few years that he's been a quarterback that guys have never done, right? Throughout their whole careers. And so, with that being said, he's just you really what I feel like he has to do a little bit better is making sure that these guys come out ready to play. He has to make sure that every one of these offensive guys are because even when you look at tonight, they've had two emotional games with Tampa Bay and with the Las Vegas Raiders, and today is one of those days where they could possibly come out slow. I mean, really, because it's one of the games like, oh man, we gonna beat Denver. You know, Denver struggled. What are they, 4-7? We're gonna come out here and blow the doors off of them because I'm sure they listen to us. They listen to what everyone's saying, and it could possibly kind of backfire on them. Denver could come out and we talked about Drew Lock. Drew is those touchdowns that he's thrown them in garbage minutes. Really, I mean, if you look at all the games they played, he's thrown them in all. I believe almost all in the fourth quarter, if not one in the third quarter. But if he's able to come out and produce those touchdowns in the first half, it could be a whole different ball game for Denver.
What Denver is going to need tonight, Steve, they're going to need a decent amount of clock work to work in their favor, which means they're going to have to run the ball. Melvin Gordon, of course, from the Chargers, who's faced the Chiefs first time around. But when these two teams played last time, Philip Lindsay was the one that was giving them fits before he went down with injury. Talk about the Broncos running game.
Yeah, man, they're gonna try to come in here and pound the ball and limit the turnovers from Drew Lock. I mean, that's just what they're going to try to do. And the Chiefs defense have had a little trouble stopping the run. And with the 1-2 punch of Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, if Philip Lindsay is able to come out here and get 90 to 100 yards in the first half, like he did last time before he went down from a Dan Sorensen hit helmet to helmet, it could be a totally different ball game. And that being said, the Chiefs have struggled with teams that match up well against them, which have a complete offense, which is a good running game and a solid quarterback to receiver pair. And so if the Denver Broncos are able to have a good running game and a balanced offense, so to speak, it could be dangerous.
The problem with that scenario, especially when you talk about Drew Lock having a shootout, he doesn't have the same type of weapons that
of
Patrick.
Course, of course.
Look at it. On paper, supposedly their best player is a rookie from Alabama, Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, and then of course you got KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick, two people that we wouldn't know if they walked up here right now here at Union Station.
Yeah, you would. You know an athlete when you see him.
Okay, we all know them. But that being the case, again, how important is it going to be for Drew and his receivers against? Because mind you, now the Chiefs' defensive backs, that's pretty. Outside of I would say Hitchens, that's been the Chiefs' bloodline during the season on the defensive side of the ball. That's really kept them from losing ball games.
The thing about it is getting that push up front. I mean, we talked about Chris Jones and Frank Clark. They have to get the push up front because that makes it for those defensive backs. It makes it a whole lot easier when a guy's just throwing up a gimme ball. I mean, it just does. And you not only with the Chiefs, but any team in the NFL. And so if they're able to get that push up front, I understand Chiefs fans, and I know everyone that's watching are like, well, they're the high money guys. We expect them to have X amount of sacks a game, to have X amount of pressures a game. Well, heck, if the defense plays well as a team, which is what, and we talked about it earlier, but which is what defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said, hey, I'm not really worried about the sack numbers. I'm worrying about more getting off the field on third down and playing together as a unit. Which, I mean, if they're winning and they're making teams do just enough to get a win, I mean, you really can't be upset with that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but a win is a win, right? Whether it's an ugly win, because we can sit up here all day long and talk about.
I've never seen a pretty loss, though, Steve. I've seen ugly wins. I've never seen a pretty loss.
We can sit up here and talk about this defense all day long, but if the team continues to win, I mean, what can you say? If the defense, okay, let me ask you this: if the defense goes out and plays this way, and the Chiefs are able to win a Super Bowl, and the defense playing the exact same way, what are you gonna say? You're gonna be right down here at Union Station where we're at right now at the parade, just like me.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to say, and what today is. What day is today? December 6th. So we can rewind the tape when I say this in. If the defense plays the same way, and the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I say you don't need to worry about bringing Frank Clark or Tyrann Matthews back because you didn't get their money's worth from them, and you can, because the lesser players, well, I won't say less players, but the players of lesser value have been the ones stepping up. So you can get that same. So you can get that same production from those players, and you can save you $40 million next season and put more money on that offensive line of the offense.
Yeah, I can't agree with that because you got to remember Tyrann Mathieu is the motivator out there.
Hold on. You asked me if the Chiefs played the same way.
I did.
Okay, so they have Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu have not been playing well. They have not been playing well. I mean, the stats show it. Chris Jones had 15 and a half, 16 sacks last year. He's at 5.5. That somehow still leads the team. So, Frank Clark talking about it's not all about sacks. Okay, well, look, we didn't pay you $20 million to not register, because I don't believe he registered last week on the stat line. Chris Jones didn't register. I think he may have 2 quarterback hits. But the only thing that you could take out of last week's game against Tampa Bay was him getting in Tom Brady's face. Tyrann Mathieu only got an interception because Tom Brady threw the ball off of Dan Sorensen's helmet and it hit him right in the bareback. So it wasn't if it was anything that Mathieu was doing in the game that was that did anything.
He made the play, didn't he?
No, Tom Brady made the play.
Tyrann Mathieu could have dropped the ball. But either way, look, it's Chris Jones and.
But then with that part right there, that I'm talking about them, those 3 money players aren't playing well. So if you're Brett Veach, when you go back and you look at the season, because you said if the team continues to play like this and they still win the Super Bowl, the offense, the team won the Super Bowl in spite of how the defense played. When you go back and you reevaluate everything, you're going to say, okay, he didn't play well this season, even though we still won. He didn't play. But how much did we get versus the production that they gave? Well, okay, they didn't do as much productivity-wise, but we're paying them $20 million. Let's see, Hitchens may have made $3 million. His production was up. Frank Clark's was down. Well, Frank Clark's on that 3rd year where we don't have to, where we can decide we want to pick it up or not. We might go in a different direction and save money.
You're not going to do that. At the end of the day, it's all about chemistry too. It's all about chemistry, and you got to remember too that when Steve Spagnuolo, if they're going to do away with Frank Clark and Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu, Steve Spagnuolo is going to be gone as well.
I'm not saying they are, but
I know.
But you asked me the scenario.
I know,
so.
but if they're going to do away with their big money guys, that means why do they need Steve Spagnuolo? Because he's the guy that said, "Hey, you go out there and get these guys because they're going to be able to. The guys are going to make my defense better." And people that don't get me wrong,
Steve can still find guys at a cheaper price too.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're going to continue to play like they're playing, because as bad as they're playing, like I said before, as bad as they're playing, they went out and they made Tom Brady look bad, look his age. They did. You can't sit up here and tell me that they didn't. As bad as
Brady did throw 245 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And that all that came in the second half, Darren. That's what I'm telling you.
No, look.
It's how
I understand. Mm-hmm. I understand he had the Dak Prescott stat line at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But the problem was the defense. Hold on. You remember how pissed off Tyrann said he was after the opening game, where they gave up touchdowns late in the game, right? To Houston Texans, right? And then of course the next week he had the Chargers, but that situation with the quarterback. But then the following week they balled out against the Baltimore Ravens. Where is that defense at?
But here's the thing too: if this defense comes out and plays lights out football each and every game. And matches the offensive play, this would be the best football team in history.
I agree. But
this would be one of the best football teams in history if the defense is able to do that. But you can't expect this defense to come out there and to play each and every week.
You're wrong. Hold on.
You can't expect them to do that.
You're wrong. Hold on, Steve. You're wrong. When you're paying these players the type of money that they are, you have to match the expectations. Because look, again, if the Chiefs had a losing record, you know as well as I do that. For me, and people may be thinking like, damn, why are you complaining? Here's the thing. I'm not going to accept anything in a win that I wouldn't accept in a loss.
Here's the thing. You're a Tom Brady fan, right? Is Tom Brady playing up to his contract? Is he? Just be honest. Is Tom Brady playing up? You expect Tom Brady to go out there and be the GOAT each and every week. Is he playing up to his contract? You can't expect that. You can expect that from the GOAT. Is Frank Clark the GOAT? Is Tyrann Mathieu to go? You can't expect them guys to go out there, and you can't have the same expectations of Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and Tyrann Mathieu that you do of Tom Brady. You just can't.
Well, they're asked to do different things, but you still expect them to perform. Look, again, I don't expect when I look at the stat line at the end of the night that I don't see Frank Clark or Chris Jones registering.
I agree
Look,
with that.
Tom Brady's going to be in that stat book regardless win,
Even
lose,
if
or
it's
draw.
garbage, even if it's garbage minutes.
Even, hold on, hey, but here's the thing. The defense still almost allowed him the opportunity to come back and win that ball game too. Did they
Yeah,
not?
after
But
they did after they
okay.
balled out for the whole. I mean, after it ain't their fault that the offense stopped scoring.
Now you know that situation with that. You know how I feel about that as well. Looking at this though, again, you talked about Tyreek Hill, but Travis Kelsey. Again, look, the last 2 weeks and the last month or so,
Mhm.
it's been a lot about Travis Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, but last week the return of Sammy Watkins. How important, because we saw we saw the little things that that Sammy Watkins and his addition to the team or coming back to the team in that starting lineup and on the field does for this Kansas City Chiefs offense.
I saw Saturday we did our show and talked about this exact thing, and I saw Carl Rucker, my guy, huge Chiefs fan. He posted, man, Sammy had some of the best hands. It made me think, and because I'm one to always say that Sammy Watkins, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves sometimes, and
Because
you
he
got to
can't stay on the field.
yeah, and you got to remember Sammy Watkins is a first round draft pick. Sammy Watkins
Fourth overall.
is one of the high money guys that this Chiefs team had brought in and only took a pay cut. Otherwise, he'd be still one of the highest top paid receivers in the NFL. So Sammy is still a threat out there, and whether he's in the stat book or not, teams have to account for him. And if they don't account for him, that's when Sammy can go for 100 yards, right? But Sammy's still an older receiver on his way out the door. But the thing about it too is that Sammy does, and I just said this, but Sammy does those things that you just don't see in the stat book, and it's noted that he's made this offense better. He's the guy that, okay, if Tyreek Hill's not open, oh, if you go double Travis Kelsey, you go double Tyreek, well, who else is open? Oh, well, I'm gonna have to hit Sammy right there on a slant route or an under route or something like that, and Sammy's going to catch the ball and get us the first down. You got to remember in the Super Bowl last year too, Sammy balled. This was after he took all the criticism of, oh, well, he hasn't done anything since the first game of the season down in Jacksonville, and Sammy took all that all season. But the thing is, when it mattered, Sammy came out there and did what he needed to do.
Now, his return, of course, means that there were less opportunities for a McCole Hardman, DeMarcus Robinson. Now, to me, the biggest thing that hurt last week was the fact that McCole was wide open, and of course, you can say Patrick can take the money and say he underthrew him, but that's a catch that McCole still should have made at the start of the third quarter, because one, he was wide open. I believe that he thought that he might have gotten hit had he caught that and turned around and didn't.
And I see one of the viewers say one of the problems in sports is that when players don't make the stats that match a contract number, we crucify them. These guys have really earned their money in 1 year as one. We won the Super Bowl. I can agree with that. They did. They made the money that they was paid to do.
Chris Jones signed his contract this year. Okay, after the Super
That
Bowl.
was after he did a
I'm
favor
saying.
to Kansas City by coming to showing up at training camp, and he didn't have to.
He didn't do no favor. He was gonna get fined. He didn't. He wasn't. He was on the
He did
contract.
a huge favor to Brett Veach. He said, "Man, I'm gonna show up for my guys,
He didn't do no favor.
and don't worry."
He was gonna get fined. He was gonna get fined. He didn't do no favor. He was doing his job. He was on the contract. You
Hey,
show up.
nah, man,
Yeah,
nah.
That's what happens when you sign a
but
contract.
but
you show up to work.
But here, not everybody does.
Well,
But here's the
you
thing.
ain't them.
Here's the thing about that though. There's been a lot of guys that haven't done that. There's been a lot of guys that will sit out and say, "Hey, I want to get paid. I'm going out there putting my body on the line."
Le'Veon Bell is
sitting
one
out,
of them.
yeah, you sitting out there and you paying and you're paying these other guys, and I feel like I've done enough to earn my money. I want to pay me what's owed, basically. And he could have sat out. And what does that do to a team that has a new coach, has a new scheme, a defensive coach that has a new scheme? It'll throw everything off. So I agree with that Facebook user. They have definitely earned their pay.
That pay was for last year.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Doesn't
man.
matter. Doesn't matter. They've earned. They've got. If they don't get to another Super Bowl, they've earned their pay. They've earned it. They've got this city of Kansas City.
They earned that pay for
Wait a
that
minute.
year.
How long was it before the Chiefs won a Super Bowl?
50 years.
50 years. 50. So
hey, hold on. It could have been 49 with the defense now, so let's not get it twisted now.
that was a different 5-5, and he ain't on sides.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that. We should be going for a three-peat right now.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. This is the Chiefs cheat sheet with Steve Walls and Darren Smith. Remember, Darren Smith. Remember, we are right here inside of Union Station. We're here, and right behind us they have the Holiday Reflections, and the Holiday Reflection. Sorry, is an attraction. Can't talk today.
You gotta say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, our Holiday Reflections attraction is located in the Grand Plaza, and it's a walkthrough village that will immerse guests in the holiday spirit. It's filled with brilliant visuals wherever you turn, featuring multiple photo opportunities with unique eye-popping holiday-themed backdrops. And it's a selfie wonderland that's designed with social distancing in mind. So it started November 21st and it's running through January 3rd. And so the hours of operation are from Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So 2 sessions. Come down. You can hang out with us for the remainder of our show, and you can go check out the Holiday Reflections. And this is Steve Walls and Darren Smith for the Chief Cheat Sheet. We'll be right back.
What's Steve's name? Toe? Speak this week? So he must have been the first person to speak. Okay, because I missed that one.
We're gonna also talk about the COVID, a little bit of the COVID test, and having to get up at 5 or 3 in the morning.
Hold on, you need to turn your lights down, sucker. You're flushed out on that. Turn it down, son. No, turn your white down. Turn the white down, son. Yeah. All right, welcome to the Chiefs Cheat Sheet. I'm Darren Smith along with Mr. Steve Walsh, host of the W. Of course, I'm host of the ship on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as Darren Estrella on ESPN Kansas City. Steve, before we get to talking about the special teams and other aspects of tonight's game, of course, there was a report earlier this morning about 3 o'clock in the morning from Jay Glazer stated that there were 7 Chiefs, either players or staff members that tested positive this morning. I think within that time frame of about 5 hours, they were all retested again. Turned out to be false negatives. Oh, I'm sorry, false positives.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that, because again, that was obviously something that came in the middle of the night, so I didn't even hear about it until later on in the day.
So the report that I read as well was that the Chiefs, of course, they show up to their team hotel, and they're tested as they walk in the door. And so as those tests were coming back, they got the tests back, and they showed positives. And so they had to go and, of course, knock on the players' doors that had tested positive, and then they had to be retested. And so, of course, you have to have 2 negative tests in order to be able to play. And so that's what they did, and it's a crazy thing because you always hear about, in hotels where in visiting cities that teams go to, the opposing team, somehow there's a fire alarm that gets pulled, and all these guys have to wake up at 2 in the morning and go outside and wait till they're all clear. And that's exactly what the Chiefs had to go through last night. Well, at least the 7 players did that had their doors knocked on. So we'll see. I'm not sure who those 7 players were. I'm sure we could find out, but I think they'll still come out and ball.
Yeah, I mean, and look, because there were false positives and because of how it all played out, I highly doubt that's good. I mean, that shouldn't be newsworthy coming from it.
But
even
it's a
after the
mind
game.
it's a mind thing too. It's like, man, do I have COVID? Like you get that positive test, and it's like, man, do I have COVID really? Then it's like, oh, well, where did I get it from? Okay, well, where does my family have it? What you got all that stuff running through your head, and you have to go thinking about that, especially at 3:30 in the morning. So that's a lot, honestly.
Well, of course, I'm curious. Did they take the test at 3:30? That's just when the first results came back, and then they're like, oh, we got to wake everybody up and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, they didn't actually say, but either way, they still had to be awakened at 3:30.
Also in tonight's game, of course, let's look at the special teams. One of the things that that to his credit, the last few weeks, Harrison Butker has been money, kicking his extra points and field goals. Of course, for the Denver Broncos, actually their kicking game is pretty good as well. Brandon McManus, he's only scored 81 points, 18 and 19 point after attempts, 21 of 22 field goals. But you look at what he's able to. If nothing else, he's been money this season. Again, the Broncos haven't had many scoring opportunities, but he again last week's game against the Saints, he did keep them from from being scoreless in the game. How important is special teams in tonight's game, or do you think it's going to be much of a factor?
I think it is going to be a factor. If you can remember last week, of course, the question hasn't been about Harrison Butker. It's been about punter Tommy Townsend.
Yeah.
Tommy Townsend and Dave Tobe had said earlier this week in his press conference that Tommy Townsend had one of his worst games since coming to coming to the Chiefs this season, and so he gave Tom Brady at least 3 opportunities of punts where. Because the question was asked, were those angle punts where they were just scared of the return man, or did he just muff it and kicked it out of bounds? And that's what he did. He just muffed it. And so he doesn't. I'm thinking that they did enough this week in practice to make sure that the Denver Broncos are not going to have great field position from punts.
When we look at this team overall, Andy Reid against the Denver Broncos is 11-6. Vic Fangio as a head coach, he's 0-3 against the Kansas City Chiefs. We obviously know that we have the better coach on the sidelines, but will there be anything new that Kansas City brings to tonight's game that we haven't seen before?
It's prime time, baby. You know that Andy Reid wants to showcase his Ferrari. I wouldn't you?
I mean,
you got the red on red. You're gonna showcase this offense in a prime time
game. Game of the week, and against Brady last week. I mean, we saw a lot of things again. Granted, you had a cornerback that was in timeout, so to speak, for the first quarter. I don't think the Broncos are going to single cover Tyreek Hill at all this evening.
If they do.
But that being the case, look, I expect. Well, let me just ask you: can the Chiefs cover the 14 points tonight?
I don't. You know what?
Because
I don't think they can.
Because the reason why I ask now, if they can't, that says something about their defense or their offense. Because, like you said, Andy Reid's going to be showing off the Ferrari tonight, so there's no excuse why they can't put up points. If they're putting up points and they can't cover 2 touchdowns, that means the defense ain't holding up their end of the bargain.
Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be a loss, L.A. Rams Chiefs 2018 game.
Never saying that.
I'm not saying that. But the thing about it is, if like I said, if Drew Lock is able to come out here and
you want to say Drew Brees so bad.
I do. But if Drew Lock is able to come out here and do just enough to make his offense roll, and the Chiefs come out slow, because like I said,
they can't. Now that is true. They can't come out slow. I mean, look, they do have now they do have Bradley Chubb. I mean, they do have some defensive players that could cause the Chiefs some problems and cause that. And really, I know it's kind of sidetracking away, but I think, and you said at the beginning of the show, I think everything's going to start up at the line of scrimmage. Chiefs offensive line, Broncos defensive line, and vice versa. I think everything is going to start with what happens at the line of scrimmage. If the Chiefs can't get pushed with the defensive players, then it could be a long evening.
And despite what people have said about this Denver Broncos offense or Denver Broncos team, the defense is still ranked top 10 in the NFL right now. The defensive line is one of the best in the NFL, and so you remember the Chiefs offensive line struggled last week against Tampa Bay against another top 10 defense. So hey, if they get another one of those, strip Patrick Mahomes stack, strip fumbles, that type of thing, where they have a turnover in a crucial time in the game, this could be a long night for Kansas City. And I mean, hopefully this offensive line, they figured it out. Had a few games under their belt together without Mitchell Schwartz, without Kelechi Osemele, and so I'm hoping that they're able to figure it out and have some kind of cohesiveness on that offensive line.
Gotta ask, what's the X factor for you in tonight's game? If you're the Denver Broncos to win this game, for the Chiefs to obviously walk away with the win tonight. X factor both directions.
If I'm the Denver Broncos, I'm going to try to take a page out of Bill Belichick's book from the last 10 years, 10 to 15 years. And what that is when you were going to – and we can look at Chiefs versus Patriots at that time. When the Chiefs faced the New England Patriots, you knew exactly what Bill Belichick was going to do. He was going to take away what you do best. And as long as the Denver Broncos do not sit up here and try to, play the numbers game and figure out, all right, well, we're going to still blitz and keep our safety and our defensive backs on the island out there, and we play one-on-one with Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce, leave a linebacker on Travis Kelce or a safety. That's the key. They can't sit up here and do that. Do what Bill Belichick did. No matter what you've done all season, play this game and do exactly what Bill did. And for the Chiefs, play a whole
show up.
No, you have to do a little bit more than that, because we got to remember this Broncos team is going to come out there playing hard. They're going to do some stuff that you haven't seen all season. You're going to be like, wow, where is this Denver Broncos? Yeah, and this is always how teams face the Kansas City Chiefs. They do some stuff that you're like, wow, where's this team been? Minus the New York Jets, every team has played this team, very well.
For me, X factor for me, if you're Kansas City, is going to be the defensive backfield. The Kansas City Chiefs. Denver leads. Well, they're the last in the league in takeaways because they have more takeaways than they have giveaways. Well, I'm sorry, take it back. They have more giveaways. No, they have less takeaways than giveaways. They're minus 15, so they've given the ball away 26 times thus far this season. And again, this is a big opportunity for the defensive backs. And look, this is a big opportunity for, again, as you mentioned before, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and of course, look, even linebackers to an extent, to get after the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
They're able to get to the quarterback. The Drew Lock, as mobile as he is, has gone down a number of times this season. I think for them, I think if you see Steve Spagnuolo pressuring this team, I think they have a good chance to get at least 2 takeaways tonight. And of course, if you're the Denver Broncos, you just have to hope Patrick Mahomes stubs his toe before he suits up tonight, because there's really no chance whatsoever that they get out of Arrowhead with the win tonight. Because one, I got money on it, and two, it's going to be some trouble if that happens.
Man, here's the thing: it's any given Sunday, so
that is true.
The Chiefs could come out here slow if they want to. Right.
I mean, we saw what happened. We saw what happened with the Jets and the Raiders earlier today.
Yeah, it's any given Sunday. I mean, these guys are all still professionals. They all still play college football. They are all in the National Football League. It's just how the chips fall, let the chips fall where they may. And let's just say Drew Lock comes out here and has the best game of his career.
Still won't be enough.
Has the best game of his career. He understands. And listen, you know as well as I do that these guys watch Twitter. These guys watch our shows. These guys watch ESPN or wherever they're watching and listening, and they hear what people are saying. They hear the negatives. Chris Jones and Frank Clark. They hear all that negative stuff. You just said your guy in Denver said that Drew Lock isn't gonna be there possibly next year and going forward. He hears all that stuff. The thing about it is, it's like, what are you gonna come out and do? You're gonna come out and try to ball. You're going to be like, all right, man, we're going to put that negative stuff behind us, and I'm going to come out here and show you the reason why I should be this long-term quarterback in Denver, or I should still be here next year, and Brett B shouldn't get rid of me because I'm worth my money. So, hey, these guys hear all that. And I think from the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, they're going to come out here and ball, and I think Drew Lock's going to come out here and do the same.
I'm gonna ask you. We got about 10 minutes left, and I want to ask you because when we took a break, our producers talking about how spirited our discussions were. People online talking about it, but I do want to ask a serious question, though, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking. Chiefs fans, are they right or are they wrong? And to an extent, media, because we cover and try not to get too close to it, but is it right to have high expectations off of what you off of not only what we expect, but what the players themselves expect from them and the coaches expect from them and from that organization? If they're not putting out on the field, yes, they're 10-1, but what they're producing still kind of doesn't match, as the gentleman said earlier, maybe their contracts and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's a fine line between heckling a player and saying the truth, right? It's a very fine line. Sometimes I think as athletes we can just say, hey, you talking crazy to me, and we don't want to hear the truth. But even whether it's the truth or not, these guys are still prime time athletes. They just came out, like the guy mentioned, the guy in on the Facebook Messenger feed. They still just won a Super Bowl. I mean, what more you want from them? Of course, two Super Bowls, of course. But they just won a Super Bowl. You want these guys to play, have a high powered defense to match this offense. I get it, but I think Chiefs fans are some Chiefs fans are realistic. They have realistic expectations. There's still a lot of football left. You gotta give these guys their wins when you can, like last week when they shut Tom Brady out and had him go 3 and out in the first quarter. You got to give these guys wins. They played well in that time.
Well, and to their credit, Tampa, got Mahomes and them off the field a few times as well, caused turnovers too.
Right, but on the flip side of that, you got to call a spade and say, hey, you're not playing good. What's up? So
that's my point.
But I mean, but the thing about it too is it's like you can only do that so many times before a guy's like, man, what? And we've seen that. One of our peers just went through that. I mean, call Chris Jones out, and Chris Jones like, man, what? On social media, and so you're gonna get what you get. If you call them out, be expecting them to come back and return. But at the end of the day,
he wasn't wrong though.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're sitting where we're sitting at, and those guys are the professional athletes, and it's up to them to go out there and figure out how they're going to make sure that their team gets a win. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about wins. Have they won? If this team is sitting here at 1-10, then we having a different conversation. Then I expect Chiefs fans to go out there and be like, all right, what's up? But not now. Not as they're 10 not as they are 10-1.
I mean, they should be 11. I mean, they should be 11-0. But I guess that's just too high expectations.
Not at 10-1.
I mean,
they're getting
nobody's
wins.
complaining about the Pittsburgh Steelers being undefeated.
Yeah, that's
okay. Look, we're about to end the show, so I got to get your final thoughts on tonight's game. What's the final score? Who wins? And give me the goods.
Ooh.
And again, do the Chiefs cover the 13-point spread now? It went from 14 to 13 now.
I think I don't actually know. I don't think they're going to cover the spread. This game is going to be much closer in the first half than what people think. I really do. This Denver Broncos team, I mean, what do they have to lose?
They got nothing to lose.
Exactly. And that's the worst kind of team you want to play. If a team is coming in here and they don't have anything to lose, well, heck, we saw what the Carolina Panthers did when they came into Arrowhead. We saw exactly how they came in with nothing to lose and everything in the game by winning in that game. But they ended up not winning. But I think that the score is going to be 41. It's going to be a high-scoring game. 41-35.
What?
41-35. All right, you can look at me like you look at me. I'm just saying, take it for what it's worth. 41-35. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Jazz, I might need you, dude. So hold on. If the defense is giving up 35 points, you gonna try to sit and tell me that's not a problem?
Hey, if What are you trying to say?
Again, go back to what we said earlier. If this defense playing
A
this
win,
kind of
a
way,
win is a win. A win is a win is a win.
all right, man. I'm willing to bet you somebody that score ain't gonna happen. I got the Chiefs winning this game. Uh, probably 28-20, probably 27-24 with this defense. But no,
27-24.
no,
So
no,
it's a
no,
close game too.
no. Chiefs win this game. Chiefs win this game 38-13. So they win by 25.
25 points.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Denver is not that good. They only scored 16 points against us last time against the Chiefs. They're not that good. They scored 3 points last week. With or without a quarterback, they wasn't scoring that many points against the. Now look, again, depending on which defense shows up tonight, if the defense that showed up in Tampa Bay shows up tonight, yes, it has an opportunity to get to be a close game towards the end of the season, towards the end of the game. But it should not be a game to begin with. So if the Chiefs play their best game, I believe Kansas City wins this game by at least 3 touchdowns.
25 points. That's a lot of
No,
points.
that's a lot of points.
25 points in a professional football game. That's a great.
Chiefs beat them 43-16.
Man, look.
Chiefs beat them. That's 20. That's 27 points. The Chiefs beat them 43-16. So what's that supposed to say?
We'll see. That's why the game's to be played.
So before we get out of here, man, who you got on, man? Who you wearing, man?
Another week, my good friends over at Halls. Like I said, we're at Union Station, right across the street. You have Halls right inside of the third floor of Crown Center. Go there. Remember, it's a high fashion store. So you can get anything from Gucci to Louis Vuitton, custom suits. They do a one fit, and so you can go in there and get your measurements and everything like that, and they can fit you for a custom suit. They also have the Bridge, which is a store located right there inside of Halls, which you find your jeans, your sweaters, your vests, and they also in different sections inside of Halls as well. So go over there, talk to any one of their stylists, and make sure they get you fitted. You can come out here looking like your boy. They fit your guys, Patrick Mahomes, Bashar Breeland, any of the Chiefs players. That's where they go and get all their Gucci and their Louis Vuitton from. So go in there and holler. You can look like your boy.
Shout out to Halls for you. Of course, if you want them more considered professional business, you can look like this every single day of the week. Stop by my guy Todd White, Todd's Clothier and Taylor Suits, now located inside Ward Parkway, right off of 86 and State Line. He styles Le'Veon, he styles your boy. Of course, you'll see me suited and booted each and every week for pregame. Of course, Steve and I will both, well, hopefully Steve will be this year coming down when we go to Radio Row in the Super Bowl. We'll be suited and booted on an everyday basis. But we definitely want to thank our sponsors for styling us each and every week. So what you see is what you get. I know if you're watching on Steve's feed, he kind of got it flushed out, so we get some of that shade. You see what the suit looks like. But all in all, we want to thank Todd. We want to thank Halls. We want to thank Union Station for allowing us to come in and do the show, as well as, of course, look, you want to get your pregame meal, got a couple places. Of course, this Gates Barbecue, 5 different locations around the metro area, but also you can stop by Tracy's as well off of 5220 Blue Ridge. Nice little soul food place. You want that good soul food, down home cooking, got some dirty fries, you can try it as well. We might have to do a show from there, get some of that good food real soon. But Steve, anything else when we get out of here?
Yeah. Thank you to Union Station, who have allowed us to come in here the last couple of weeks and do our pregame show from here. And holiday reflections, come down, bring the kiddos. You can bring the whole family. It's a sight to see. They're open they've been open since November 21st, and they'll be open through January 3rd, Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 2 daily sections. It lasts about 30 to 60 minutes to get through there, and so the price is $5 per person. Under 3-year-olds are free, and so they strongly encourage you to come down, man. I've taken a look at the holiday reflections. It's a great attraction. It's located right inside of the Grand Plaza. It's a walk-through village that will immerse guests in the holiday spirit. It's filled with brilliant visuals everywhere you turn, featuring multiple photo ops and unique eye-popping holiday-themed backdrops. Come down. It's the Selfie Wonderland.
All right, and of course, we'll have post-game later on with the Chiefs Zoom press conferences tomorrow. You can join me on ESPN Kansas City at 3 o'clock with Darren and Sterling. You can join Steve and I along with DJ Q and Sean Tyler at 6:30 for the Chiefs Red Hour, or for the Red Hour. And see, what can they win tomorrow night?
They can win there's a Patrick Mahomes limited edition Patrick Mahomes. It's made by Hallmark. It's a Patrick Mahomes tree ornament where you can get your tree ornament and put it on your Christmas tree. Brought to you by the Devoya Marshall Agency of Farmers Insurance. Check us out, man. The Red Hour, and we appreciate our producer, Miss Jasmine Palmer, who always keeps us on task.
She makes it look good and she makes it sound good. So we thank her very much. Look, that does it for myself, Darren Smith. Steve Walls will be back next Sunday. If it's Sunday, if it's Chiefs football, it is the Chiefs cheat sheet with Steve Walls and Darren Smith. We're out there. Have a good evening. Social distance, wear a mask.